Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again for the Ghost Train. I'll be your host, Marcus Diaz. How's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully, very well. No James tonight. James is no internet night, I guess. He's back in Oklahoma at Norman, and he said the Wi-Fi just can't handle it today, so he'll have to figure something out for next week, but we'll be good. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's meet the guest. Back again for another great episode is our good friend Skip Talbot.
Hey everybody, how you
There's
doing?
Skip. Skip, of course, hailing from Central Illinois, and been chasing for what 11 years now, 12 years.
Something like that. Started in
This will be,
'03,
yeah, this
so
will be the 12th season coming up.
yeah.
13, 12 or 13. Anyway, all right, so let's continue on. Yeah. All right, let's go on. Let's go ahead and meet our other guest, Jennifer Brindley. Jennifer,
Hello. Hi.
why don't you go ahead and tell the folks who you are, where you're from, and how many years you've chased?
Sure. My name is Jennifer Brindley. I am originally from Denver, and I live in Milwaukee. I've been here for 8 years. My first tornado was 2007, but I've only been really chasing full season since 2011. So you can take that however you'd like.
Well, we all have to start somewhere, and 2007 was a great year to get some good tornadoes. So, all right. Well, our final guest tonight is the what I like to call the frontman of 311. I'm sure you've been told that many times, but Adam Lucio will be joining us.
Once or twice I've heard that. Thank you for having me, Marcus.
So, Adam, tell the folks at home where you're from and how long you've chased.
Chicago, born and raised. I started chasing back in 2004, so this will be my 11th year out there.
Good, good. Quite a few years under all of our belts. So, all right, guys. Well, on the slate tonight, we are going to be talking about what drives us to chase year after year and spend all that money we make to go out and have a slim chance to see a tornado. I think that's kind of something that a lot of people don't really know is that it's not always successful tornadoes, and every time you go out, you get something awesome. A lot of times, it's pretty hard, and a lot of busts. We'll also be talking about somewhat of a new trend, I guess, where chasers and people of the public getting near, dangerously close, and possibly inside tornadoes just to get a good shot or a good video, and how dangerous that is, and we're going to kind of discuss our opinions on that. And I believe later on we'll also have Adam giving us a nice little story time session. So have a really awesome day in 2010.
Infamous day.
Very infamous. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and dive in it. I mean, we chase every year all the time. There's a good setup. If we have the money, if we have the resources to do it, I mean, we're always out there. To a lot of people, sometimes, chasing looks glamorous, I guess. It's been kind of made into this entity of fame and just an all-around great time. But a lot of times, it's not that great, or it's really exhausting, or it's a lot of hard work. So, Skip, what made you on that fateful day in 2003 decide to go out and see a tornado, and what about that day drew you in to come back again and again and again?
That day in particular was, to me, kind of a crime of opportunity. So at that point I was sitting in a high risk. So here it is, your smack dab high risk tornado outbreak. This is my best chance to go out and get a tornado. That's what kind of lured me out that day. It was May 10th, 2003. And we busted horribly, and a lot of people got scared. So why did I keep coming back? I don't know. There's this underlying urge. There's this desire. It's like this compulsive need to witness a tornado. So when you don't get one, you want one even more. So even though we busted that day, I was, and we got shook up. The fact that we didn't see one made me even more desperate to see a tornado. So that's what brought me back out there, and I don't think that urge is ever really filled. So that's what keeps me coming back.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's something about it that I guess it's something that's not a very easy thing to do. Of course, now it's a lot easier to chase, but the fact that it's still somewhat difficult to chase, and it's something that I've put a lot of effort into learning. That's kind of the reason I go out. Um, it's a good risk reward hobby. The high risk, high reward sometimes, and but it doesn't always pay off. I think there's a lot of times where I think I'm gonna have a really great day, and somehow I mess up. I blow the forecast, or I get lured away, and everything I just worked hard for the last couple of days just down the drain. So, but I have to come back. I have to come back. There's just something about being out there that just really makes me want to come back. So Jennifer, what about you? What really first brought you out on the plains for a chase, and what made you keep coming back for that?
I didn't have like a childhood experience that impacted me. A lot of chasers maybe saw a tornado in their childhood or had one affect the town that they lived in or their state. For me, I saw the movie Twister, and it's cheesy, but it's true. And then I actually first started chasing with Tony Laback, because I'm from Denver, and so he is the first person that ever took me chasing after my begging him and offering brownies or dinner or something. So he was very kind and allowed me to come along, and we had several busts before I got my first tornado, and that was Seymour, Texas. That was April 13th, 2007. So it was a wedge. It looked very much like Mapleton, the Mapleton tornado, and I don't know. Once you're there, it's like it's possible. It's an amazing thing. You see the tornado and you think, okay, so it's not just something that's in the movies, that you can actually, if you work hard enough, you can witness this. And it does pay off if you have enough patience. And then it's like crack, because you just can't stop. But aside from that, it's just the possibilities. When you wake up in the morning and you're going to chase, you're going because of the promise that this day could be like the most amazing day of your entire life. It could be a sunburn and bad gas station food, but it could be the greatest thing in the universe. You could experience, something that you couldn't even imagine in your wildest dreams. So that's what keeps me going. Plus travel and seeing new places and experiencing things, and the whole thing. The whole thing is awesome. And even if you bust, it's still an opportunity to be in a new place, and there's always something good to do, always something fun to do. So that's what it is for me.
And you made up a good point. It's always good when you're chasing. If you have a bust, try to find some silver lining in it, or try to find something to do to kind of remedy the sting of busting. I think the worst type of bust is missing a tornado by just minutes. That there's actually storms, there's actually tornado producers, and missing it by minutes. That's the worst. When you blue sky bust, that nobody else got to see anything.
Yeah.
So it feels all right. But Adam, so let's hear from you. Let's hear your experience and what made you keep coming back.
Well, ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with the power of storms. Similar to Jennifer, I didn't have a childhood event. There was no tornado that hit my house or any type of early encounter that really sparked my interest. It was just a fascination by the power of the storms. The weather is so calm 350 days out of the year, but then why suddenly on this day is there just utter chaos outside? So eventually I yearned to experience more of that and something more intense. So that's kind of what initially lured me out there. And I consider my first real storm chase to be April 20th, 2004, which was a pretty big outbreak here in Illinois, a surprise outbreak, and all I got that day was some pea-sized hail and 40-mile-an-hour winds. But it brings you back for more. You want to experience more. You want to sort of outdo yourself and see what more you can push yourself to accomplish. And it's once you immerse yourself in that lifestyle, and that's really what it is. Chasing's like it's a lifestyle to me, and you just can't get enough. It's almost a curse in some ways, because I've basically thrown out the idea of ever living a quote-unquote normal life to be able to chase. I've turned down high-paying jobs that have told me, no, you can't have time off to go chase. I'd rather have a lesser-paying job that gives me flexibility to chase, to go out to be able to do it, because it's just, there's no experience like it. Each time you go out, you're in a totally different place, you're meeting totally different people, totally different possibilities. Nothing is ever the same, and I'm a person who gets bored with repetition very easily. So each chase is just so completely unlike the rest, and that's really one of the biggest draws for me. And I love to travel, and I love to drive. I just like being out on the road with the music and your friends, doing what you love to do.
Yeah, you've hit on a lot of points that I think I kind of turn towards when I think about chasing is, just the traveling, seeing new places, kind of being in a car all day. It's really funny. I get this feeling sometimes when I'm chasing and I'm going through some small town in, Kansas or something, and I see everybody in that town going about their day like a normal person, like I would do on any other day. But I feel like I'm a little bit more superior than them at that moment, because I'm like, you know what? You guys are going to go to your boring crap-ass jobs, right? I'm going to go 70 miles north and go watch some tornadoes. So I'm really, I'm way cooler than you guys right now. So I don't know if anyone else gets that feeling or not. I do, like, a lot. So.
Oh yeah, dude, on the Bowdle date, which is what Adam's going to talk about later, that totally happened, and it was a lot more like driven home or significant, because these people in the town were outside doing their normal daily business, but they were outside to look at the storm, and they didn't realize it, but on the other side of the building they were standing in front of, there was a wedge. There was an F4 wedge, and had they just walked around the building, they could have seen it, but they were oblivious. They were just standing in front of the building looking up at the blue sky, and they had no clue what was behind the building. So.
Yeah. I almost feel bad for them sometimes, because I'm in their town for a totally different reason than what they're doing. They're just out milling about, going to their grocery stores, and I'm sitting here in a parking lot because I think a tornado is going to roll through it later. So, I almost feel bad sometimes for these people that are just going about their daily lives, and I'm kind of sitting here looking at the sky going, oh, something's about to go down.
Yeah, that
That's
happened
sort of
to that happened to us on the El Reno day. We were at El Reno Lake and waiting for this massive event to potentially unfold, and all these people are swimming and having a grand old time. They're splashing around with their kids, and it's like this weird feeling, like my head and my heart are battling, that I wish I could just be like, hey, people, like, you should probably just go home. This might happen, but it's like, I don't know the future, and that's not my responsibility, so let's let them swim. But it's an interesting feeling.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if some of the people that live on the plains that have been there forever are just a little bit naive. That it happens a lot. You go into gas stations and stuff when there's a big setup, and you spark that conversation where the people are like, "Well, you a storm chaser? Yeah." And then next thing you know, you're like, just be careful, be weather savvy, kind of pay attention. And then they always say, I don't ever come through here. It never comes through here. It always goes just for most of us. Every time. And you just can't help but think, you're so dense right now. Just please pay attention. So, yeah.
More complacent for sure.
Yeah. So, Skip, if only that was a good metaphor for storm chasing. I think that might help some of the people out to understand what we kind of go through.
Sure. So I've got this metaphor, kind of to describe to me what I think storm chasing is, and kind of how it feels to me. And it's a movie, but it does a great, and it has nothing to do with storms or storm chasing, but to me it perfectly captures what storm chasing is. At least to me. Maybe I'm completely crazy here, but I don't know if you've seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Richard Dreyfuss. It's an amazing movie. Go see it if you haven't seen it. It's a classic. Anyway, to me that movie perfectly captures what storm chasing is. I don't know if you can make my other screen here, the main one, Marcus, on my desktop computer here. I got a couple of grabs from the movie here that kind of like to me are like the timeline of how a chaser is born and kind of what they go through, at least from my perspective. So in the movie, Richard Dreyfuss is just kind of going about his daily business. He is driving this truck, doing his job, and he's just stopped at these railroad tracks, just minding his own business. And all of this weird stuff starts to happen. Stuff's turning on and off, and then all of a sudden he has these encounters with these lights. And I think he's even like sunburned. And it's just this completely captivating, awe-inspiring moment in his life. And I think a lot of storm chasers go through that at a young age when they have this encounter with a tornado or a nearby tornado. And it instills in them this really deep, awesome respect for the weather. They're just absolutely captivated and awe-inspired by it. They have this moment, and from that moment on, their life is kind of just revolves around it. They become almost obsessed with it. So, I mean, in the next frame here, in the movie, Richard Dreyfuss tears off after these lights in his car. He's watching with a few other locals, and I've seen that so many times when I'm chasing. There's a tornado, and you're watching it, and there's also a handful of locals next to you, and they're watching it with you. They're just, for that moment, they're completely caught up in it with you. But like the storm chaser, Richard Dreyfuss, after this encounter, his life, he just becomes completely obsessed with it. He thinks about it day and night. He starts sculpting his mashed potatoes, making this little mound. And, I don't know how many chasers can relate, but you draw little tornadoes on paper, or you're looking at stuff that looks like tornadoes. It's the same thing that Richard Dreyfuss is doing with the potatoes.
I use spaghetti and twist it on the fork.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, like another one for me is when I pour creamer in my coffee, and I see the vortices that the Boeing creamer makes in the coffee, and I'm like, oh, that's an RFD surge. Like, it's all kind of stuff. So in the movie, Richard Dreyfuss, he tears his living room apart, and he makes this giant mound in his living room, and his wife and his kids leave him. And it's sad, but I think some chasers can even relate to that. Like, they get so obsessed in the hobby that their entire life just, the rest of their life suffers because of it. So, he's just so compulsively obsessed with seeing this thing, experiencing this thing once more, going there and doing it, and you dwell on it and you want it. And it gets to the point where he leaves and he's with strangers and he's driving cross country to witness this event, this phenomenon. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know where he's going. People think he's crazy. And I think, to me, that's storm chasing. It's kind of, you're driving cross country to see this thing. And then, when it finally happens, you've been on the road forever, and you see that moment, the sights in the sky and the Great Plains scenery. That's just completely rewarding. All of this obsessive, compulsive behavior is just absolutely fulfilled. And when you get that close tornado encounter in the movie, it culminates with this, with this alien. This close alien encounter, but to a storm chaser, it's a close encounter with a tornado. And when that moment is finally realized, it's just, it's absolutely the pinnacle of your life. And I think that, to me, that movie really captures a lot of the same things chasers feel and experience, even though the context is completely different.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's spot on, exactly how we feel. You kind of get obsessed. Real quick, have you guys kind of sacrificed anything big in your life for chasing?
Oh, all the time. I've sacrificed careers, and there's always that family function that you miss out on, or the big event that your friends plan months in advance, and it so happens that there's an outbreak set up on this day. There's a lot of sacrifice in there, and personal relationships suffer, but you can't help it. You're either going to go do what you love to do and be happy, or you're going to go do this thing and be miserable that you're not doing what you love to do. So it's a constant battle. There's a lot of sacrifice involved. But, it's just the way we're wired. Like Skip said, you become obsessed. It's no matter how many times you try to ignore it, you just can't. Something's going to potentially happen, and you have to be involved in it. It's just you're just wired that way.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, I
thinking
feel the
about the
same way.
job interview already. They asked what hobbies I had, and I told them about storm chasing, and I was getting into it, and I could tell like they're like, whoa, nope.
Yeah.
So I tend to like downplay it now when I'm on a job interview or something.
Yeah, I actually, 2009, I was working for a dealership in town, and I got too obsessed with chasing, and I was supposed to be out chasing for a weekend, and it turned into an entire week. And when I got back, I got fired. So,
Oops.
and the only thing I had to show for it was one little needle tornado in like southwestern Missouri.
There you
But
go. That
even
And it
makes
was
then,
sense.
worth it.
That's
it
worth the
was. It
job.
was so worth it. It was. I didn't even care. I was like, whatever. I'll just go find another job. And luckily, I did find another job in my field, and they were a lot more flexible, and they have been ever since. For the last 5 years, I've been kind of able to chase when I can. I mean, there's a few days where I missed out because of work, but I still get enough of that hobby and just enough of that feeling to be able to go out that it kind of it's 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 good enough, you know. Of course, you want more. You want to be able to chase year round almost sometimes, but
Exactly.
just can't. And okay, and then so there's this kind of conflictive battle that goes on within chasers. Do you try to chase everything you can in the early season because you've been without a tornado for so long, or do you want to try to spread it out throughout the year? Um, there's there's only a few chasers that can do the whole year round chasing, but a lot of people they chase these crappy setups in March and April that don't do anything, and then come June, July, later on in August and whatever, you're out of resources, you're out of money, you're out of time off, so you really can't get to these other setups that go on throughout the year. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think I'm really guilty about chasing early season stuff and just blowing everything I can before June rolls around, and then I'm screwed in June and July.
I think you kind of end up grasping at straws at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, because by the time March rolls around, you're like, it could be Henryville. I mean, let's go. We're gonna do it, and you're just so desperate to get out of the snow and the cold. And then at the end of the season, it's you want to get one last good chase in before you have to hibernate. So I think how you allocate your resources and your time depends on your job and your home life and all that stuff. For me, I am self-employed, so I have a lot more flexibility than people who have your average 9 to 5, and they have to save up like vacation time, and it's a huge challenge. That's how it was for me, 7 years ago. But I still am like, I pretty much don't want to take any weddings. I'm a wedding photographer. I don't want to take weddings in June, but and that's the dream. But money talks, so I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, how about you, Adam? Is that kind of how you feel too?
Absolutely. My job is seasonal, so I'm off for 3 months of the year. Unfortunately, they're the wrong months. I'm off December, January, February, March, actually 4 months. So I have the time and the limited flexibility to jump on the early season setups. So I always do, just because why not? I have really no reason not to. So, and I like some of the early season setups because a lot of times they end up closer to home, and there's fewer chasers out. You kind of have a chance to get a unique prize. These days, I'm at a point in my chasing career where I would rather have a smaller tornado that nobody else does than the big tornado that everybody does. Like Pilger, I'm sick of Pilger already. The most spectacular thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm sick of it, just because everybody else is there. So I like
Blasphemy.
to.
Blasphemy.
It is blasphemy, but I see it posted so many times. Like, all right, can we talk about something else now? So I like early season setups for that reason, especially just because there's fewer people out there. And one of the initial lures of chasing was back in the day. It was kind of an obscure hobby. There weren't a lot of people out there. You could kind of just go out and be by yourself, be in nature, and just kind of be free to travel. Now, as the hobby gets more popular, there's Chicago-style traffic jams on the dirt road in Oklahoma. Like, if I want to sit in traffic and honk my horn at people, I can just stay home. So
Yeah.
those early season setups have a different kind of allure to them for me. And fortunately, my job is flexible enough where I can chase most days. I don't have a set number of time off. It's just kind of take it as I need it within reason. But all those days are unpaid. So as Jennifer mentioned, money talks. You need money to chase. You got to work to make money. So it's always toting that balance of making sure you're not using too much time off of work, but at the same time, you have to be able to fulfill my chasing needs. And I've been fortunate enough to find a job that allows for more flexibility than most. It's not perfect. I have to sit out those 5% days on a Wednesday because it's one day to travel there, one day to travel back. So I do miss some setups that I would like to chase, but that's just the name of the game until I can set myself up where I can chase more freely. It's just the battle that I have to fight.
Yeah, I used to be guilty, and hopefully I won't do it this year, where like I said, I would chase a lot early season, and then come June or July, I'm out of money. I don't have chase money. Like, I don't have money to just go out anymore to do that. So this year, since the end of last season, I've started to actually take cash out of my paychecks and stashing it away, just for chasing specifically. So I don't think money's going to be an issue for me this year. But yeah, you gotta find a job, or you gotta have a career that kind of lets you be flexible, kind of go when you can. With me, I'm a mechanic and I'm paid 100% commission. So if I'm not working, I'm not making money. That's why the winter months are killer, because the work really slows down and I'm not making a lot. But what I have to do is I have to tell my boss about 2 or 3 days out, hey man, I want to chase this day. It looks really good. And the only stipulation I have is, okay, make sure you have no carryover work. So I got to get everything done before then. So for the most part, it's good. I can't miss certain times of the month, but I feel confident that I can kind of get whatever I want, or kind of chase whatever I want, if I have the resources to do it and the time to do it. So, but yeah, you guys bring up a lot of good points about it. It's almost like an addiction, a disease. It kind of eats at you all the time. That you need to go out and see something. You get desperate. You look through the models. You look 240 hours out on the models, and you see this little bump of mid-50 dew points nosing in Oklahoma, and this big gnarly trough coming in from the west, and you're just like, oh, there's a chance. Oh man, it's coming. It's coming.
I believe it is technically classified. So.
Yeah. And then the next day it's totally gone. It's disappeared. So it's like you get these mirages at the beginning of the season on the models. So
I think there was one yesterday actually that was showing up. We had a nice little low coming up through central Illinois, and I was like, "What is this? GFS is trolling already."
And how much moisture was with that? Like what, 30 dews, 40 dews?
Yeah, well, they're like in the mid 40s. That's enough up here this time of year. The setups are shear driven, so.
Yeah.
There's an event last year that I'm not going to talk about, but similar setup. So whenever I see that low coming up through central Illinois, bring in at least 60-degree surface temperatures, 40 dew points. My eyebrow kind of goes
Starts twitching. Like,
It does.
Well, so you're not going to talk about that setup, Adam. So how about you talk about this other setup that we all know very well. Well, maybe we don't know very well. I think
for better or worse.
Some people don't know the story. There was a very particular day in 2010, and a lot of chasers kind of got caught with their pants around their ankles, and I think a lot of it had to do with streets and trips giving false hope on a highway. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so I think I'll let Adam take over here. Of course, we are all talking about May 22nd, 2010. I think a lot of people remember that day as a very, very big tornado day in South Dakota, which, if I remember right, looked like it was going to cap out for most of the day until the 18Z. Is that right, Skip? Do you remember that?
A half an hour before we were on a tornado-warned supercell. I was calling it a cat bust. I was like, this is going to cat bust, because we were under like sunny blue skies with just a few. There was like just a little tiny patch of cumulus. And the 700 millibar temps were right on the line. You look at John Davies' recommendations for what the cap is at 700 millibars, and it was right there. And I'm like, it's going to cap us. And it's late afternoon. We just got a little sparse queue, and then bam, it went off like a bomb, and that thing was tornado warned a half an hour later. It just exploded. So.
Yeah, so a lot of people made that trek there, and we're just kind of sitting there under that sun and baking for most of the afternoon with, I believe Wesley told me about the models. They were just no precip all day long until that final 18Z run, and there was like a little blip on the NAM in South Dakota. So I think that gave some people hope. But yeah, Adam, tell us about that day and what happened at the end of that chase. Because I think we all want to hear it. Like I said, people, if you don't know, this is a great story. Gather the kids, get them out of bed, sit them around the campfire as we watch this.
Now I have to tell it in a way where everyone can visualize it. But yeah, that was a very infamous day, as you guys have mentioned. That day was thought to be a cat bust. It was one of those days that just happened to fall in between a string of chase days where you're already out there. So what else are you gonna do? You know, I probably would not have left my house to chase that day if it was just that day by itself. But that was like the middle of a 10-day stretch that I was out there. So, and like Skip said, that storm all this just went up like a bomb. We called it a cat bust too. We went to a gas station to get some snacks, and I came outside and boom, there was just this huge tower going up. And I said, well, where did that come from? So 20 minutes later, we're on a rapidly developing tornado-warned supercell, and it did produce a very large, very photogenic tornado, the Bowdle EF4 wedge, which out of the 12 or so tornadoes we saw that day, that was the one we were kind of out of position for. After that storm put down its first couple tornadoes, we proceeded to head north to keep up with it, and the TIV was caught in some power lines and stuck in the middle of the road. So we had to backtrack south, and that put us out of position for the Bowdle wedge. So now we'll fast forward to the part everybody wants to hear about, which this is a very well-traveled story, very infamous day. It basically involves me and my chase partners that day. I was chasing with Danny Neal and Ben Holcomb, and about 12 other individuals in their vehicles. We ended up getting trapped in a farmer's field, causing all sorts of damage and things like that, when our GPS road atlas decided that it was going to show us a road that wasn't there. Now, we weren't playing the storm terribly aggressive. We observed all of our tornadoes from, a pretty respectable distance, about a mile, between that 1 to 2 mile range. So we weren't getting up in these tornadoes all day. We had our routes planned. We, by all accounts, did everything we were supposed to do. So this is like 3 hours into the day. We're on tornado number 6 or 7 at this point. We were losing count. It was just one of those days that was that good. And we're on this little dirt road in South Dakota. There's a whole train of vehicles going down the same road. Out there, there's only so many roads you can choose from. So more often than not, especially during the peak of tornado season, which just happens to be May 22nd, is the statistical peak of tornado season, and that's the day we're talking about. So we have a lot of chasers on this road, and next thing you know, there's 2 tornadoes touching down, one on each side of the road, kind of doing the field goal split like many people did on Pilger. You had one on this side of the road and one on the other side of the road. So we're moving to reposition on the storm just to kind of stay ahead of it. And all of a sudden we crest a hill and our little road turns into a field, but it's there on the map. So we turn back around. There's 2 tornadoes coming directly for us. So, okay, now you have to wait for 6 or 7 vehicles to kind of do their 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 point turns on this narrow dirt road to go back west to try to escape. Unfortunately, one of the vehicles had gotten stuck, so they kind of blocked us off from going west to escape. So then, in the confusion, we all redid our 6, 7, 8, 9 point turns to go back east, and we sort of all congregated at the end of this road like, all right, this is it. This is game over. We're done. You got a tornado here and a tornado here. And actually a third circulation was going on at the same time. This was the first time I've actually seen 3 tornadoes on the ground at the same time. I mean, this thing was just dropping them left and right. So I think it was Team Thunder from tornadovideos.net actually just led the charge and said, "Forget it, it's time to go." It looks like Marcus is getting ready to play some video from that day, so
Yes.
we'll see if we can
Here's
give me some visual aid here. I'm not good with my my adjectives and my adverbs to really instill the visuals of this day.
yeah. Go ahead and talk us through what we're watching here.
All right. Okay, so here's a beautiful drill bit tornado that was to our north, and I don't know if it already happened in the video or not, but I'm going to pan over to the left, and you'll see another tornado rapidly develop. And at this point, this is the greatest day of my life, just because of all the tornadoes that we have seen up until that point. This was the most tornadoes I've ever seen on a chase. So, here we have this beautiful drill bit just off in the field, just kind of doing its thing. We're close. I mean, that's only a block away or less, but we're in a safe position to view it. And then all of a sudden we look over. Here we got another that's Ben pointing at it. Like, we got this other tornado that touches down. That one, the whole storm is moving our direction. So now we kind of have to start to think about, okay, what's going to be our next positioning move? What are we going to do? Here we are. Now we're running. Our road is rapidly deteriorating at this point. I think now we're actually driving not on a road, but on part of the field that was plowed over. So we're kind of seeing it through. Okay, well, how far is this going to go down? Well, here we are. We got another tornado touch it down. Here we all are congregated at the very end of this road. That's it. This is kind of the nowhere else to go. All right, we're stuck. So there he goes. Forget it. It's time to lead the charge, and we all just decided it's either going to be us or the tornado. So we made a desperate dash south across this farmer's field, which you see here. There's kind of a conga line of vehicles fleeing for our lives at this point. And there's me calling out that, oh, hey, the Streets and Trips showed a road there, and it's not there. We're not just doing this to go out for a joyride, like, woohoo, let's do some redneck four-wheeling while we're out here. No, we were actually pretty terrified at this point, because this storm is literally dropping just tornadoes left and right. We lost count of them, so when I say 12, that's a give or take 5. I know it ain't 7, but it could be anywhere more than that. So, and then to make matters worse, so we're thinking, okay, we're going to drive south across this field. About a mile or so, we'll hit our next road and continue on east. We'll be safe, things will be okay. But this field isn't flat. It's hilly. It's got hills, dips, and valleys. We crest one of the hills on the field, and all of a sudden it's flooded. It's no longer a field, it's a swamp. And if there was audio, you'd hear 3 very different reactions from Danny, Ben, and I when we crest that hill and see that field flooded. It's a very amusing piece of audio. So at that point, we all just kind of start driving around in circles like a bunch of ants lost at a picnic. Just kind of, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And there was so much rain falling at the time, our part of the field turned into a swamp, and every vehicle just sank, and we were stuck. So I believe my famous quote here is, if I were a praying man, I'd be saying my Our Fathers right now. And then, as you can see here, there is one of the tornadoes spins up obnoxiously close to us. I'm going to pan to the right, and then I believe I'm going to look again. We're going to look out the window, and there she is.
Oh,
so
man.
that was kind of geez, there it is. That's one of like 8 tornadoes that this storm put down in a span of 5 minutes. I mean, they were just left and right. Just a carousel. I mean, it's almost like the El Reno storm when you had this giant rotating carousel with just individual full-size tornadoes just popping up everywhere. To this day, that supercell, that Bowdle supercell, I think is still the most impressive supercell that I've ever chased from an overall storm standpoint, just the environment that storm was able to go up in. But anyways, back to the story. So, the storm passes, none of us, we escape, no injuries, no death, shaken up, egos bruised, things like that. So now it's, how do we get out of here? We're all kind of stuck. So fast forward we were out there for hours. So fast forward about 3 hours. It's now dark. We were finally able to get a hold of the property owner, the local sheriffs. They were not happy with us at all. They didn't understand. They thought we were just out there for a joyride. So they were less than friendly in dealing with us, and they actually arrested one of us for an outstanding warrant for the dumbest thing ever was like a bounced check written for potato chips at a gas station like 20 years ago. So now we've got a guy being hauled off to jail for a bounced check they wrote 20 years ago for a bag of potato chips. And we've got an angry farmer here who is refusing to pull our vehicles out until he has his insurance adjuster come and look at the field to assess the damages we've done from driving around in circles. So now we're going to fast forward another hour. They shuttle us off the field. We had to abandon our vehicles. They shuttle us off the field. They drop us off at a little gas station in Ipswich, South Dakota. There's no power. The storm took out all the power. So now me, Ben, Danny, we were joined with Bob Hartig at the point, and we're all standing around at this gas station for like an hour. Okay, what are we going to do? You know, we found a ride. Bart Comstock came to our aid and was shuttling us back and forth to Aberdeen. There was like 12 of us, but he could only fit 3 people at a time. So he's shuttling us back and forth to our hotel. So after about 2 hours standing out there, covered in mud, just filthy, miserable, ready for the day to end, no traffic going by, all of a sudden a pair of headlights comes in, pulls in, and it's a cop. And he says, "Oh, I've been looking for you fellas." And I think, oh, great, here we go again. So he starts running all of our fingers, all our prints, taking all our IDs, all our information. For whatever reason, my ID came up as me not existing. He ran my driver's license. They couldn't read my fingerprints. He's like, "You don't exist in our system. It's not showing you're a real person." And I'm like, "I am a real person. This is my ID." They
should have told him. You should have told them to update that Rolodex.
Yeah, they could not find any information on me in their system for whatever. So as far as they were concerned, I wasn't who I was claiming to be.
Sounds like a Talbot movie waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Like, Adam discovered he didn't exist.
So, and then I wake up in my bed. I've been in a coma for 20 years. That's how I felt that's how I felt when I finally got to the hotel room. But so now by this point, our friend is out of jail, and when I say the jail, it's basically the basement of the sheriff's house in this town with a population of 20. So they basically just checked him up in the basement for an hour. So yeah, that was kind of a big whoops on our end, unintentional, of course, but sort of a last-ditch effort. The next day, the farmer did pull us free after claiming his insurance adjuster claimed that we did $5,000 damages to his field. So, you know, we split the cost between all of us, which came out to about $400 a person. And, you know, the whole stipulation was if that $5,000 is paid off within, I forget how many days they gave us, they wouldn't press any criminal charges. So they really were not happy with us after that incident. But what I did come to learn is another farmer from the area who learned of the story actually emailed me. And they said, "Oh, yeah, that guy's a known jackass in the area. None of us like him." It turns out all those fields were already deemed a loss from an earlier ice storm. So all the farmers in the area were already going to collect insurance on their fields due to damages that happened over winter. So the field was already a loss before we got there. Not that it justifies it, but just, you know, some towny folk were just trying to stick it to us as much as they can. So that ended up being quite the fiasco, and just kind of it sort of represents of how quickly a day can change and how fast things could go wrong. And we were just fortunate that for as many tornadoes and as many violent and strong tornadoes as that storm put down, that they passed very close by and didn't hit us directly. So up until that time, that was my biggest kind of oh shit moment.
Yeah,
heck of a story.
Oh, it does. That's an awesome story. And, you know, it kind of shows everyone that you cannot take, you know, the programs that we use for navigation for granted. You know, sometimes they're wrong. I've had a few Google Map fails because that's what I use. You know, it would take me down a county road that turned into some private land and it was gated off. You know, kind of screwed me over. So,
ironically about that, we checked several mapping softwares. The only one that showed the road ending was Google Maps. You know, we had Streets and Trips. Somebody else had Road Atlas. You know, DeLorme. Someone had Paper Map. You know, we had everything. We checked everything, and everything showed that road going through, except Google Maps actually showed it deteriorating and kind of ending where it did. And then there's more speculation that the farmer actually plowed the road over and he wasn't supposed to, and you know, all sorts of things that we learned after the incident. So that was definitely a unique situation right there. And there's a big thread about it on Storm Trek. You can actually go back and look. If you type in, you can search for it. I think the title was Chasers Stuck in the Mud in South Dakota. Big old 12-page argument going back and forth. I have quite a few posts in there sort of explaining / defending what we did that day. It's an interesting read, fun to go back and look at.
Yeah, I might have to go back and scan through that. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to fighting for your life and in a life or death situation, you have to take whatever measures you can take. And if that means you try to do some mud bogging in someone's field, then so be it. I mean, I understand it's kind of a dickhead move in their eyes, but hey, man, if it's me or dying, if it's a matter of life or death, I'm just gonna go right over your stupid wheat. So
Exactly.
so well that'll do, Adam. That's a very good story. Kind of brings us into our next point that we have tonight. So there's quite I guess you could say, a new fad going on with storm chasing, and that would be chasers and members of the public, kind of getting really close to tornadoes, whether by accident or by purpose. A lot of that is on video nowadays. It seems like everyone has a camera now, so it's not a big issue to get it on video. But there's several people that I think will try to justify it, but there's a lot of people that really can't. Obviously you got guys like Reed Timmer and Sean Casey who have the vehicles, and as well as other people that have the vehicles to kind of withstand that beating they take. I just recently, I think there was a thread on Storm Track of best tornado footage you've ever seen, and one of them was the Tibbs encounter with El Reno, and that was just absolutely insane to watch that. If it was any other vehicle in that position, there was no way that they were gonna stay on the ground. So, let's kind of get a little bit of a discussion going on, guys, about getting really close, whether it be chasers or members of the public, and we kind of need to educate some of these people that do it to tell them it's not really what it's meant to be. I think a lot of people think it's kind of glorified now that you had Reed's and Sean's vehicles doing it. They kind of feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it too, and then it'll give me this great shot, and this great shot will get me on TV, and I'll make thousands of dollars on TV because my video was used or whatever. I think that's kind of the mentality that a lot of these people kind of play. So, Skip, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, chasing is always very introspective, self-rewarding, selfish type hobby. And I have to put a few disclaimers out here. I am a very aggressive chaser, and I get close to tornadoes. But at the same time, I don't condone reckless chasing. So that makes me kind of a hypocrite, and I realize that. And I think that's fine. I think you can chase and still point out how you're going wrong, how yourself is wrong in situations. Yeah, I think that chasers should be responsible, and I think that some are getting too close and a little too reckless, and I think it has been more and more a competition to get the closest, most extreme video. And I think it might be better if we instead maybe take a step back and try and realize what's the best way to chase, what's the safest way to chase, what are chasers doing wrong, how can we become better chasers for it. Not necessarily criticize people, but so that we can all be better for it.
But how can you say try to make chasing safer when it almost really isn't at all? I'm going to kind of play the devil's advocate here and say,
okay,
really
so that's a misconception to me. If you want, storm chasing can be almost as safe as collecting stamps, right? So you can go out there, you can be very careful, you can watch the storm from afar, you can set up your tripod from about 5 to 10 miles out, get nice shots of tornadoes and storm structure, and then go home. At that point, the biggest risk is just the driving out there. And if you want, you can make chasing as dangerous as driving down the road on a Sunday afternoon. So it's just the amount of risk you're willing to take. And I think that there are levels of risk that are probably inappropriate for most to be taken, especially beginner chasers and people who don't know what they're doing, and people who have other chasers and people at home that are depending on them, for their safety, for that they're responsible for. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed thing. Chasing doesn't have to be dangerous, but it can be, and that all depends on the level of risk you're willing to take.
All right. Well, that's a very good point. But okay, Adam. So I somewhat agree to Skip that you can actually make chasing safer. But who wants to chase 5 miles away from a storm? I mean, I want to get right up next to it. I want to feel it. I want to smell that fresh cut grass that tornado pulls up. You know, the smell of a tornado is kind of very enticing, but you know, it kind of gives you the stigma that you're one of those guys that just really get in there very unsafely and chase. So what do you think about that?
Well, you know, you say it gives the stigma that you're one of those guys that gets in there and is unsafe, but you know what? It's the truth. You are. You're being reckless. You're being unsafe, but at the same time, I guess that's your right. And I'm not one to necessarily criticize or look down on somebody for doing that, because as I said, it's their right. If they're only putting themselves in risk, who am I to tell them how to live their life and what to do? Now, there's a difference between a seasoned chaser like, say, Skip, who's been chasing for 10 years, knows his way around a storm. He can make those aggressive plays. He knows what he's doing. There's a big difference between that and somebody who's out there for their first or second year, relies mostly on what their radar and what their technology is doing, following other chasers around, and they accidentally put themselves there, and then they come out of it like, oh my god, I screwed it, you know, they get all, you know, that's kind of different. In that case, you're an idiot, you're an asshole. Stay back, learn how to do this before you do it. You know, there's methods, there's strategics, there's ways we position ourselves to be able to do that. Now, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but what I would suggest, and adamantly so, is that ease yourself into it. Don't just go gung-ho right off the bat, because you're the moron who's going to get in that situation, doesn't know what to do, and I get stuck behind you because you can't make a decision. You're pulling off the road halfway. I thinking you're pulling off the road, I'm going to go around you because I know what I want to do. All of a sudden, you dart back on the road because you suddenly realize, oh, you know, those are the types of chasers and members of the public that are out joyriding that irritate me the most, because they're in over their heads. They don't have the experience to be making those kind of moves, and their indecisiveness is affecting me and what I'm trying to do, and that puts collectively everybody else at risk too. You know, especially in these situations, especially in Oklahoma, when you have a whole line of cars. If you're that guy up in the front, you're holding everybody else back because you don't know what you're doing. So, you know, get as close as you want, but learn how to do it first before you do it. You know, it's not, you can't just drive up there. You have to know what you're doing before you go and do that. And if you're going to be close, hold the damn camera steady. That's my big thing right there. And don't scream like an idiot, because I'm the type, I hate listening to chaser audio. I always mute it and just watch it. I hate listening to people scream and yell. And I know sometimes I'm guilty of that, but I really try to kind of shut myself up and let nature do the talking. So, you know, I love watching the video. Yeah, that's great. That's exciting stuff. You know, I'm all for it. But like I said, there's a method to the madness, and you should learn that method before you try to willingly put yourself in that position. And that's kind of my whole stance on the subject.
Okay. All right. Well, Jennifer, I am a noob chaser. This is only my second year chasing, but I know if I get right up next to that wedge and get video of that, I could totally sell it to CNN or you know, whatever, ABC, put my name on the map, make a bunch of money. But I mean, you got to convince me now why that's probably a bad thing.
I don't think I will.
Just let me go and enjoy my time, huh?
Drive into that wedge. That'll be more video sales for us.
That's
Haha.
That's
right.
right.
It's you know, it's you thought you were sneaky.
Wow.
I don't find it to be anywhere close to my responsibility to talk anybody out of doing that. I think Adam nailed it on the head as far as I'm concerned. You know, I agree with Skip and with Adam both. I think I kind of view it as like your sex life, right? So, like, if what you're doing is something that you want to do and you enjoy it, and it's, you know, mutually beneficial to you and your chase partner, if you have one, and you're not hurting anybody,
Or by yourself, you know.
and you're
whatever's
not
happening.
hurting anybody, then I don't care. And so the hurting other people, not just holding up other chasers or causing traffic issues, you know, but it's not just traffic issues for other chasers, but I think I worry about emergency personnel more than the chaser behind you that wants to get to a different spot. So that's something that I really think is important. You're not pulling off the road. You could potentially be causing an accident, but there could be an ambulance, there are EMTs or police officers behind you somewhere that are going to go help victims. So get out of the fucking way. That drives me crazy, but I think it's a mixture. I don't even think of it as I want my 15 minutes of fame or whatever that is. I feel like people have like this sense of invincibility sometimes. Like, you know, when the truck in Twister like gets wafted up into the tornado with like a little whistling sound, and it's kind of like a comic moment, but those things happen in real life, and it happens to the people, you know. It could happen if you're not paying attention or you're doing things wrong. But along with that, man, I don't know where I was going with my train of thought. There are all kinds of reasons people want to get in there, and whatever your reasons are, fine, but just don't cause a problem for somebody else. You know, if you're gonna risk your own neck, that's your own decision. I don't know, and I think that we're going to consider. I think there will be chaser deaths in the future. You know, that's where this discussion goes. So what's the problem? Who cares? You're going to get up close to a tornado. What's the worst that could happen? Well, you could die. Will there be more deaths? Yeah.
Well,
You
and
know?
I think
agree.
inherently there's going to be more deaths just simply because there's more chasers on the road now. You know, it's just kind of an inevitability now. So let's tune the station now, okay? Let's talk about chasers or people of the public that accidentally get inside tornadoes. We actually have some videos that we were going to show you guys. So let's talk about these videos of people that they accidentally drive into a tornado and they don't really know. Probably one of the more famous videos here that we're going to play, and it might be hard to see with the stream, is the truck driver that drove into a tornado, and not just any tornado, but the Joplin tornado back in 2011. As you can see, he's just minding his own business, kind of a big supercell ahead of him. And then we'll skip ahead here, but as he gets closer, the rain gets a little heavier, the skies get a little darker, and he gets closer again, and the rain's a little heavier and darker. And eventually, he gets right up in this thing where it is damn near pitch black. I can move this out of the way, sorry. You can see as it gets a little darker and darker. So, I mean, in this kind of case, where you're on the road and you're just driving along, John Q. Public just minding his own business on a Sunday drive, and all of a sudden drives into a storm where the storm kind of envelops them and they really don't know any better. You know, it's something that we can't frown upon because these people are in fact victims of the tornado. But at the same time, you know, there's got to be some sort of improvement for these people that are on the road that just kind of accidentally drive in a tornado, you know. What do you guys think about that? So as we watch this here, he's about to stop under this overpass, or just on the other side here, and you'll see, maybe difficult to see, but you'll see the truck tip over and flip over. So what do you guys think?
I think there will always be a level of public lack of information, or I would call it ignorance, but I mean that in a passive way. I think that technology has taken us to a place where that will be less and less. Everybody's carrying around a smartphone. We are addicted. I am addicted to my smartphone. And so those safety warnings that are popping up all the time, I think that gets something done. I don't think we're ever going to be able to eradicate that ignorance of your situational awareness, or knowing what the radar says, or what's going on with this storm. Is it just rain showers? Is this a crazy downpour? Is this tornado? But I think people have access to the information in a far, far more accessible way than they ever have in the past, and that has to do with technology. That's what we've got right here. So some people don't know their phone can make that noise, and when they hear it, they're going to pay attention to that. So I think that's a huge step over a couple of years ago, and beyond that, I don't know that there's much else you can do. You can't force people to pay attention. I call my grandparents when something's going to be potential in their area, and they still are like, yeah, okay, and then, that's that. So some people don't really think it can happen, but putting it in someone's hand and making it accessible, I think, is a huge step. I don't know that you could do much more.
Yeah, and real quick, we're watching now the Tuscaloosa, Alabama tornado from 2011. Also, just kind of a guy sitting in his apartment complex watching this thing coming at him, and really, really looks out that it does not hit him directly. But Adam, do you have anything to add to what Jennifer had to say?
Not really. She nailed it pretty good in the case of the Joplin tornado. That thing didn't look like a tornado, and to someone who doesn't know better, you're just driving into a heavy rainstorm. So at that point, it becomes your own personal responsibility to be self-aware of what's going on, and to take it upon yourself to get educated about the weather, and maybe even learn a little bit about storms. I mean, someone who's in tune with the weather, we knew the threats of the storm. We would have known not to proceed that far. How is it really that much of an inconvenience for members of the public to just educate themselves a little bit about the weather so they can't put themselves in that position? I don't think so, but people assess what they want to know and what they want to don't know. In the end, it just comes down to personal accountability. I don't fault that guy at all. Like Jennifer said, ignorance is he just didn't know any better. So obviously he didn't intentionally put himself there. But at that point, there's only so much we can do. The information's out there. It's up to the individual to want to receive it and actually understand it and put it to its intended purpose.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so far that, or so much that we can tell the people. I think if you live in these tornado-prone areas or anywhere that's pretty, kind of a hot spot, you need to take it upon yourself to learn about weather and kind of get educated. Know what a watch is, know what a warning is, and know where to go and what to do when you got a tornado coming at you. So. Now, I think there's some chasers, like we said, do get purposely close. There are a few that get accidentally close, though that seems to be kind of one of those things where you don't really see it coming. Let's take a look at a couple of videos real quick of actual chasers that that actually got really close on purpose. One of them is this very famous footage from Mapleton, and Skip, I'll let you kind of do a little bit of a narration on this, I guess, if you want to, about what we're watching here. And there was a little something special about this tornado, in that Darren had his mother with him on this chase. Poor lady, I could only say. But do you think that this is going to be an increasing problem for chasers, that they get a little bit closer and closer and test the limits? And, is that just going to be something that everyone's going to have to accept is going to be happening?
Yeah, there's a couple of things at work here. First of all, we have more chasers on the road. And yeah, the other thing is that there is a portion of storm chasing, it's not everyone, but there is a portion that is competitive in the sense that they have to get as close as possible and they have to get the most extreme footage possible. And And it's that kind of extreme tangent that I think is the most at risk from being impacted and injured or killed by a tornado. On the other extreme, it's the very beginners who are getting into situations that they're not educated on, that are also most dangerous. So it's just two ends of the spectrum. You have the most aggressive, the ones who are pushing the limit the most, and you have the ones who are not educated and don't know what they're doing. This tornado, this was an EF3, and it struck Mapleton, Iowa in April of 2011. And you can see Darren here. He's looking north, kind of northeast. He's just immediately south of this tornado, and really, really close.
And I believe the tornado actually kind of starts wobbling back towards him. Either does it wobble, or I don't remember if it wobbled or it just grew in size rapidly.
It was very much growing in size, yeah. I think at this point the tornado was tracking largely east, but it very quickly grew from, a tenth of a mile or less to almost a half mile or 3/4 of a mile in size. It grew quite large quite quickly.
Yeah, and of course, and we mentioned that he had his mother with him on this chase. That's another thing is, we kind of bring on some of these people that don't chase a lot or don't chase at all, that kind of just want to tag along. I have a rule when somebody wants to go with me. I say there's usually two types of people when they're new that I will take chasing, or I should say will react. This is the reaction. There's only two types of people. There's people that'll be scared shitless and crap their pants, or there's people that'll just be amazed and won't shut the hell up. Well, either way, they're not going to shut the hell up. I think either one's not going to shut the hell up. So, I mean, that seems like the only two types of people that are like the noob chasers. I think I did have success once. I did bring a friend along, and he was actually very calm and kind of, he wasn't screaming and yelling, and he wasn't scared. He thought it was awesome, wanted to do it again. So, I kind of lucked out there. But I try not to bring in some new people that I don't think will be comfortable around tornadoes. So, any other thoughts on that? I mean, is there something that we need to sort of get that message out to some of the new chasers that it's not all that it's cracked up to be the next re-timmer and driving right into a tornado. I mean,
I am a huge fan of, and I know a lot of chasers don't agree with this, but I am a huge fan of promoting chase safety and identifying where chasers are going wrong and where they're making errors and what they're doing that's unsafe. Especially for those cases where you've got people with you in your car that are dependent on you for their safety, but in general, even if you're just by yourself, I still think it's important that we identify unsafe chasing, because really, chasers who get killed, do they want to get killed? Don't you think they'd still like to be with us today? If we can point out where people are going wrong, even if it offends some people, but it saves a few lives, don't you think it's worth it to do that? Rather than just saying, well, you chase however you like, you assume whatever risk you're willing to take, and if you screw up, you're dead. I don't think I agree with that. I think we should definitely try and learn from our mistakes by identifying those mistakes. And new chasers especially, I think we should really try to put out some educational material for them. I hate to bring it up for a million times, but there were actually 2 storm chasers on the El Reno storm that were killed that had no clue what they were doing. And had they had more education, I think they'd still be around today, which I'm sure they'd want. And all of the people who now miss them, that they're gone, I think they would all appreciate that. So I don't know. It's a different opinion on a very touchy topic.
Well, I understand that too. I think that there are 2 sides to the coin, though. I think what Adam says about personal responsibility applying to your average Joe Q dude or dudette who's running around minding their own business and don't know what weather is happening around them, right? The average person who it's their own job to maybe learn a little bit more about weather, right? So as chasers or new chasers, the information is out there. It's not like there's not, information on how to safely chase. You're making a decision every time you go. And there are 1,000 decisions you make, right? And not everyone has to. I don't want to be offensive here. I feel like
please do.
I feel like it's up to you to take advantage of the information we all have at our fingertips here. Like there are a million resources, storm track being one of them. People like yourself, Skip, who take the time and have the talent to look back on chases, big events, and dissect them. That's huge. You are doing that. You are providing the information, but you can lead a horse to water, right? But we can't make storm chasers or hobbyists take the advice. So I get what you're saying, and I just don't know how much the conversation is going to change someone's mind, because it's easier to look outward than it is to look inward. So I struggle with this. I think the information should be out there, and it is out there, and creating the content is really important for those people who want to learn from it.
Yeah, she's right. The information's out there, and I think we should always be promoting that idea. Of course, nobody wants anybody to get hurt or killed. So yes, we should be trying to educate new chasers and members of the public and things like that. But I'm at a point where I almost don't know what more we can say. It's you know a tornado's dangerous. We can teach you kind of about storm structure and how they can move, and we can dissect the events and see what went wrong and try to learn from that. But at the end of the day, is the person going to want to receive it? And that's, I can't force them to. And the only thing I can say is, all right, well then stay out of my way if you're going to choose not to heed this information. And there's a big problem with a lot of the new generation of chasers. They don't want the information. They don't want to hear from 10-year veterans. They think we're insulting them, and everything's a personal attack to these kids these days. They want to jump into the fire and be instant rock stars. We've got Sean and Reed copycats. All these damn tornado tanks are popping up left and right, and I love the TIV. The Dominators are cool. Those two vehicles serve a purpose. I could think of at least 4 more armored vehicles that have come out since then, for no other reason of just wanting to be a copycat. Ooh, look at me, I'm extreme storm chaser. I'm going to go get extreme video with my tornado tank, for no other reason other than just to be an attention whore. Those are the types of irritating, just why? Why do you have to build a tornado tank to get close video? You're not going to get, just stop. Just don't. But at the same time, it's your right. Go ahead, do it. So I told both ends of the fence too on this one, because at the same time I think it's dumb and stupid. But on the other hand, I respect that it's a person's right to do so. So I'm not going to tell them not to do it, but I'm still going to have an opinion about it. It's like, it seems like it's a different generation now. They don't want to listen. They don't want to learn. They want to do things their way. They think the technology is going to guide them. They look to the radar first before their experience, which is not the smartest way to do it, but that's the times are changing, and that's just the way the hobby's kind of evolving. And for people who have been involved longer, they sort of have to adapt to that, and just kind of go with it. Things are always evolving, things are always changing, and we just have to follow the trends and stay with them.
Yeah, and you brought up another point where I think also, just to kind of get the other side of the story, the veterans kind of get a little bitter. They have a little bit of bitterness whenever they're out there. They're exactly where they want to be. They're exactly where they targeted. They know this is where you have to be today to do it. And then suddenly a first or second year noob pulls up right behind you because either A, they were probably following your spotter network icon, or B, they were just kind of SPC chasing and pointing right at the middle of the tornado risk. And you just kind of feel like, you kind of look at them and you're just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this guy's here too? Like, man, I worked really hard to pick this spot, and you're just kind of flocking towards us, following us.
it's hard not to feel that way when you have to learn a way that definitely takes a lot more skill and a lot longer to develop, and then some rich kid with a good allowance with the latest GPS can just look at a dot on a map and drive up there, and they think their shit doesn't stink. Oh, I'm the latest, I'm the greatest. Well, okay, yeah, let's rewind 20 years and see how long you'd last. That's right, you wouldn't. You crawl in a fetal position on the dirt road and die because you just don't know. So yeah, it's hard not to kind of especially when you see them walking around with their noses high in the air, it's kind of hard not to get a little irritated. But as I said, that's just the way it evolves. I've accepted it. I try not to let it bother me too much. Like I said, as long as they're not impeding what I'm doing, stay out of my shot. Don't pull in front of me and get in front of my camera. Go be somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is, with the rapid development of technology these days, we are going to have that gap of veterans and beginners where the veterans kind of use the older methods and older ways of forecasting to get where they are, and then, like you have these noobs, like you said, that are just rich kids and daddy paid for everything. Here's, all my technology, and I got here just as, I worked just as hard as you to get here. They kind of have that mentality. And they just don't understand why veterans are so bitter at them. And it's just because, there really was a lot of work when we were beginning to actually, become a chaser. And now it just seems incredibly easy to actually be successful because as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you understand your technology, it's not as hard to chase as it used to be. So.
I think it has to do with the attitude, right? So, like, I don't know, are people who chase for 10 or 15 years veterans? Right?
Well, yeah, I guess you have to kind of look at their portfolio and see their history.
Right. And so.
A twister.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, everybody has a right to try to get into it. I just think your approach and the level of respect that you have is what's important. If you're getting into chasing by piggybacking off of like what you're saying, following around someone's spotter network icon, or if you put 50, 100, 500 hours of research and learning into it before you went out, like say John Williamson is a good example of that, like coming into it with respect and trying to learn. That's the difference. Is it because you have a true passion and like an obsession and you're in it for the weather? Are you in it for the weather and the storms? Or are you in it to elevate yourself in a public eye? If the second answer is what you're going after, then you have a right to do that, but I don't have to respect you for that. And I think that's the difference. So if your process is all about, hey, look at me, look at my crazy car, look at all of my light bars and my flashing lights, and I'm going to blow through traffic lights and I'm going to make a spectacle of myself, well, that's nothing that I can get behind and respect. But if you're doing it because you just love storms and you want to learn, like, come on out. That's awesome. So it has to do with where it's coming from in your heart as a person. And if your motives are pure ones, that's great, man. That's what it's about.
Yeah, the roads are wide open for those that actually want to be out there for the weather. But yeah, I guess it gets a little touchy whenever you have someone that comes in and they come in it just to, like I said, kind of become an attention whore, or they're out there to make money somehow. If that's their sole reason to be chasing out. That, no disrespect to those that have and are continuing to make money with weather, because they do it for that reason. But the people that come into the hobby and that's their only reason to be out, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth when when I'm trying to talk to them, and that's what they throw back at me. I'm just like, oh really? You know what? Go away, because I don't want to deal with you. So
I'll be the first person to admit, though, if I could make enough money off of storm chasing to where I didn't need to work another job, I damn well would. So
that's the dream.
It is the dream. I don't fault anybody for trying to make money off of storm chasing. I think it's delusional to believe that you're going to.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's very hard. If that's the sole reason you're getting into chasing, then yes, you're an idiot. if weather is your passion, who doesn't want to live their life pursuing their passion and having that be the thing they do to sustain themselves? That's the dream. So I don't fault anybody for trying to take a little something back. You know, your chasing costs thousands of dollars, and if I can make $300 selling video, I'm going to do it. If I can make more money on YouTube by increasing my audience, my viewership, I'm going to do it because that's more money in my pocket. That's more chasing I get to do. In the end, that's all that matters to me is how much chasing I can do. So you're damn right. If I can make some money while I'm doing it, I'm going to. I'll continue to do it even if I don't make a penny. But as long as those opportunities are there, I'm going to seek them, and I'm going to utilize them to their potential.
Yeah, very good point there. So I think we kind of strayed away from the original topic just a little, but very good discussion though. All I can say for the noobs out there, come to Storm Track. Become educated. It's You're not going to get every piece of information you need there, but you can always ask a lot of guys and a lot of veterans. And yeah, we get a little tiresome repeating the same thing over and over, but if you're really true to wanting to chase and you really have that passion, then I don't think anyone's going to fault you for asking and picking our brains. But just don't come up here with your flashy vehicle asking what should I add on to it because I have more money than you.
Exactly.
So, just don't do that, and everything will be cool. So I'm not referring to anyone specific.
Yes, you are.
Buzzer?
What? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Oh man.
So that's okay. But,
I had to be hard on him, man. He had to know. So, all right, guys. Well, if you have anything else to add to our discussion today, anything? Final thoughts, I guess.
Is it April yet?
I don't. You know what?
79 more days.
I wish James was on because I'm pretty sure he has a date calendar, and we're down to like just over 40-something days until March.
49, I think it is.
Yeah, 49. I mean, we're getting there. We're so close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's there. But of course, there could always be that late February setup that happens every now and then. But that's kind of dreaming at this point.
It's crunch time now. This is like your final exams where you put it off. You got 2 days to study before the big final. That's where we're at in the year now. It's crunch time. It's the middle of January. You got a month and a half to get everything organized for the upcoming season. And Lord knows my list is a mile long.
Yeah, I think everyone always is. So
read Dospel's Chase Safety and Hades Hints and weather modules on MedEd. So this is a perfect time to do that. So.
Yeah, always good to brush up on your lessons there.
I've read those 1,000 times, but I mean, it's still awesome to go back and do it again because you see stuff you never noticed the first time, or you see stuff in the field 20 times, and when you go back and read this basic stuff, you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So.
I just had one of those moments on Storm Track, and that's why I'm glad that forum is still around. Dan Robinson's post about what he called the yo-yo effect on the El Reno storm. That's something I never considered. It makes perfect sense. I've observed it, and you know how the forward flank precip didn't fill in, and the tornado kind of slingshotted to the north where it was supposed to be when the rest of the storm deviated from where the tornado was. And I think the Bowdle storm did the same thing. The wedge kind of anchored itself to the ground. The storm kept moving, and then it it has to catch up and sort of pulls it back. That was a really interesting post. I learned something from that thread. So it's definitely a good resource. I've been chasing for 10 years, and I'm still learning new stuff. So that information is there. It's nice that it is.
Yeah, and real quick, guys, I think everyone or most people in the community probably know about the big change at Storm Track with Steve Miller now taking over. But we've had quite an influx, and I think Skip will vouch for it, quite a big increase in activity since that happened. We've had a lot of new posts and a lot of people coming back. So anyone that's watching that thinks that Storm Track is dead, please come back because we're pretty much proven that it's not at this point.
Yeah, they're gonna be launching some brand new form software. So we're gonna get a brand new form. A lot of people like to hang out in the chat, and I don't think a lot of people know about that. So go to stormtrack.org/form/chat. And a lot of people like during the show now are chatting about it now, so it's a good place to like hang out and talk about stuff. And yeah, hopefully by spring or a lot sooner actually, we're gonna have a brand new form, and it's gonna be a lot better and a brand new chat room. So definitely worth checking out. And all of the old posts should be migrated over. So that's really important. We don't lose the content we have there. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of good content there, and there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of new topics now that are chasing related that a lot of people can come back and answer. There's a lot of people talking about some of their old classic stuff that they love and favorite chases and favorite footage. So there's a lot of cool things happening out there, and we invite everyone to actually head out there and take a look around and get to know everybody again. And we're not trying to migrate everyone back from Facebook because I think that's kind of an impossible task. But we're definitely kind of revamping that site to make it another good resource for chasers again. So yeah, we invite you to come back out there again. All right, guys. So real quick, last week we introduced our super accurate, never wrong weather prediction for 2015. We're going to predict how many tornadoes you guys think will happen in 2015. And we're not exactly sure what the grand prize is at the end of the year, but we'll think of something pretty good towards the end of the year to give. We might even go and make a trophy. That's kind of what I was thinking of, is making like a little trophy that we'll mail off to you guys so you can display it, and we'll make it, what do you think we'd call it, the Nostradamus of chasing trophy. So, that's
that
kind of
guy
what
was never wrong in his life, right?
Right. So, all right, we'll start with Jennifer. Tell us, what do you think the 15th season will have? How many tornadoes will be in the U.S.?
Why do you have to start with me?
Oh, well, no pressure, no pressure. It's just an accurate prediction.
I have no idea. I don't even know what's average.
What does this get, 1,200 average?
14. It's about 1,400 is average.
We had 850 last year. Just remember that.
Okay. Let's go 1,052.
1,152. That's actually really, that's not too far off from Shane Adams' prediction. He had 1,143, so you guys will be pretty close if it gets there. So, just is that just a wild number you're throwing out? Okay. No meteorological.
Well, I do have 3 or 4 degrees. So.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No.
All right. Well, good. We'll keep that in mind. And 1152, that seems pretty average. So, Adam, what about your super accurate prediction for the 15th season?
1,111, because 11's my lucky number. So 1111.
1111. Yeah, that's
1111.
Make a wish or something like that, right?
Yeah, there you go. That's my lucky roulette number. So that's the number I'm throwing out there.
There you go. Just so you guys know, Skip put 1,250. And he said 1,250 plus or minus 750 tornadoes.
I think he's going to get it.
I think he's going to win.
He's going to win his own trophy.
Yeah, officially we have 1,250 for Skip, because, yeah, that's just not fair, Skip. Come on.
All right.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'll think of something. I'll think of something nice. So far, everyone has predicted, over 1,000 tornadoes in the 15th season. So there's 1,000 opportunities right there to get your 15 minutes of fame and become the next re-timmer. Just remember that.
What if we have less tornadoes every year? Because for the past 3 years, the count's been going down. What if it keeps going down every year? What are you guys going to do? You going to start panicking or freaking out? Or
I'm going to extend my season. I'm going to extend my season from December to December. Because I'll have to change every single setup then.
Well, Well, at the current rate of descent, we won't reach 0 till after I'm dead. So I'm gonna try to pretend that's not happening. Cause
Can you guys imagine what's gonna like if that were to happen and we got down to 1? That in somewhere in that year there was going to be 1 tornado, and imagine the convergence and the amount of people and just the chaos just to try to catch that 1.
There wouldn't be, because it would be in Idaho or something stupid where nobody would go.
Yeah, it'd be like up in
Some
Maine.
local farmer will get this shot, and we'll all be like, "Damn it!"
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it. And it'll be a beautiful tornado, and no one else will be on it. So,
Right.
well, all right, guys. Well, I guess that we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. I really appreciate you guys for being on, Skip, Jennifer, and Adam.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, always fun, and you guys are always invited to come and be on part of the show. So,
Anytime.
cool. Well, guys, guys at home, guys and gals, I hope you enjoyed the show. If you got any suggestions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, or PM me on Storm Track, or try to find me on the chat. I'm always on there for the most part. So, cool. We will be on next week again, Sunday, 7:30. Not sure if James is going to show up. Depends on if he buys better internet or not. I don't know. Maybe he's just going to have to go sit in Starbucks and mooch off the Wi-Fi or something.
I still don't know how you have bad internet in Norman, Oklahoma.
Right. I mean, come on. It's like Nerd Central of the plains.
Right?
So, well, all right, guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the show, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed our guest. Still don't have a name for him, by the way. He needs a name. We need a name for him. He's now the mascot of the show.
He's the bear in the bear's cage.
That's right. That's what I said. I said yesterday something about Bear's Cage, but I don't know if anyone had anything better than that. So just make a comment below about the name. So, all right, guys. Well, we will see you guys next week on the Ghost Train.